What a powerful movie. Ordinary People. People today watch it and they go, wow, I've seen TV shows, movies like this. I've seen the whole topic of mental health and suicide prevention. It's used a lot in modern TV nowadays, but in the late 70s, early 80s, it was new and started to get people talking about things. Ordinary People was the film that sparked that message about mental health and suicide prevention. Ordinary People, before 13 Reasons Why, there was Ordinary People. I said this about 13 Reasons Why, and I tell this to everybody. It's like a long public service announcement. The first season of 13 Reasons Why is like a big, long public service announcement on suicide prevention. I will say the same thing about Ordinary People, that it is a long public service announcement about mental health and suicide. This movie shows us that there is no problem reaching out to people, especially when you need help. Ordinary People follows a Chicago family struggling after the loss of their oldest son and from the suicide attempt of the youngest son. So there were two children, two boys, Buck and Conrad. Conrad and Buck a while back were on a sailboat, and unfortunately there was a storm hit while they were on the sailboat. Buck sadly drowned in the sailboat accident. Now Conrad is suffering from survivor's guilt and is shell-shocked. Shortly after Buck's funeral, that's when Conrad attempted suicide. Now, unlike 13 Reasons Why, we don't see the attempt. We hear about it afterwards. We only see the aftermath. We see the ambulance. We see his father. We see his much big-hearted father bang on the door. Conrad, open up! Conrad, are you in there? And then we see the ambulance drive off. We hear about what Conrad did. We see the scars on his wrist, but other than that, we don't see what happened to him. We don't see what he did or how he did it. After Conrad returns home from the psychiatric facility following his attempt, his father is doing everything he can to be there for Conrad. Meanwhile, his mom, she's a tough woman. His mom's very tough. I give her credit for being tough, but I don't really credit her for being a bit cold and resistant towards her son. And in fact, I would say she's ashamed of her son for what he did. And from what we see in the movie, she loved Buck more than Conrad. Now, just so everyone knows, if you're a Hunger Games fan and if you did not like President Snow at all, why don't you watch this one? Because the father is played by a young Donald Sutherland, 30 years before he did President Snow in the Hunger Games movies. This is a great depiction, especially for the early 1980s when it comes to mental health and suicide awareness and prevention. It was a good depiction on what to do and what not to do when it comes to dealing with such a horrific issue. This is a film that I would consider watching with your parents. It's a really good, well, dare I say, family-friendly film, despite the swearing. A good family film to tackle such an issue. It's a good show to watch with your family and then discuss it afterwards. And I think this is a film that schools should be showing when it comes to health class. It'll get the students talking, it'll get teachers talking, everybody will start thinking about what to do and what not to do when it comes to grieving and when it comes to suicide prevention. I think this film is a masterpiece, and it hit it big at the Academy Awards in 1981, winning Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Director, Robert Redford. Oh yes, Best Supporting Actor was Timothy Hutton, the young man who played Conrad in this film. He did such a great job. When Conrad cried, you cried. Everything that Robert Redford did for this film, the way that he used cameras, the way that he used flashbacks, close-ups, it really was different, of course, for films at the time. And of course, for serious close-ups to show emotion. Yeah, we see that nowadays, and we saw it then, but the way he did it was a little bit different. It was a way of showing mood in a much better way. It wasn't like those dramatic close-ups that you saw in film noirs or anything like that. It was actually to show real, raw emotion that you'd see in the real world. I will not call this an 80s classic. I will call it a masterpiece when it comes to the serious topic of mental health and suicide prevention. I really think this is a good film to watch with your parents and discuss it afterwards. And for that, I'm giving it 10 out of 10 film cameras. This is actually one of my all-time favorite movies. You learn a thing or two. I love movies that get people learning, teach you a lesson, by the end of the film. Trust me, this movie is going to change the way you think. By the time this movie is over, you're going to think differently.